They want to move an approval.
I'll move to approve.
And a second, anybody? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Okay, so the minutes are done. Executive Director.
Yes, so just a few little updates. Number one, the good news, the shelters have been installed at the BART station. We've been long waiting for them, so it's great to see them out there. It's providing somewhere for people to sit and get shelter when there's rain, which we need more of. Unfortunately, they've already been graffitied, so we're working on having them clean those up a bit.
Those are not our...
They're not our responsibility. We still have not, we're not quite sure whose responsibility they are. I believe they're BART's, but I can't give an answer yet. So yes, but it's good that we have them out there in places to sit. I know Joyce was happy to hear that at the last meeting. One other quick thing, we've been having some issues with our bank account. Bank of Marin, if you know, Bank of Alameda was bought by Bank of Marin a few months ago, or late last year actually. And since then, we've just continued to have issues with getting signature cards. We've been working on it for 4 months. We can't seem to get the cards quite right. So I've been talking to our accountant. He's also had some other issues as well. And we've talked over the years about maybe changing banks. They're no longer in Emeryville. That's kind of problematic. We feel direct Oakland to deposit our checks. So we're looking into Chase or Bank of America. So I'll provide an update on that next month. But it looks like we might be looking at switching banks. It's a good time given all the changes going on right now. That's it.
Okay, good. We promised to be
Very quick. So
brief this
yes.
time. Okay, so you're going to lead us into the
Yes,
auditor's
business
report.
items. The first item on the agenda is the review and acceptance of the independent auditor's report, which is attached here in your packet. The audit committee did hold a meeting on April 7th. Francis Collins and Peter Schreiber were members of that, attended that committee. Colin Osborne was not present, although he is also a committee member and has reviewed the auditor's report and financial statements. The committee reviewed and discussed it and recommend approval to the board to accept the auditor's report. Okay. Anybody have any questions on the report or the financial statements? Bottom line in change in unrestricted net assets, as you'll note on page 3 of the report, is that last year we were at a deficit of $40,578, and this past year, 2013 was the deficit of $40,578, and this past year, 2014, we actually had a balance of $341,000 from our revenues. We reported on that previously as well.
Any questions or comments?
No questions. That's a good
So the committee is recommended we accept this?
Yes.
Does anyone want to move that or?
I'll move to accept.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
The next item is the tax documents for the organization. At the same meeting, we returned the tax documents, both the federal tax return and the state annual information return. Just to remind you, the ETMA is a 501c4 organization and is exempt from income tax, but we must complete the required tax forms and report annually in a timely manner. The audit committee also reviewed these materials and recommend approval of these documents.
And our preparer and accountant are fine with it also?
Yes,
right?
of course, yes.
And Jeff's name is going on here, his signature. I'm fine with that.
But they look consistent with the auditor's reports.
Yes, they report the
consistent
exactly.
To the best of
All
my
on accrual
ability.
basis, yes.
So I would move to accept them.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
This is all the key business, so we couldn't do
Yes.
last time?
Yes, exactly. Just on time, because we have to get our tax documents filed by May 15th. So the next item is the acquisition of 3 bus purchases. I've mentioned previously at board meetings that we are recommending accelerating our previous fleet replacement plan and acquire 3 shuttles We recently lost 2 due to high maintenance costs. They were over 10 years old, so we've got their full life out of them. We also expect to lose 1 more within the next 6 to 8 months.
And what do we do with those, Ronnie? Do they have any residual value at all?
Nominal. We're expecting around $2,000 per bus.
2,000
Yeah.
for a tree? Or
Just to get rid of it, yeah.
You could
Basically,
have-
they strip them, take the parts out, and use them for other things.
trying to sell me one for
Do
3,000.
you want it? There you go.
You know, I mean, I'd like to see you driving down the road with one.
Yeah. And picking up people, I'll take your
So this won't,
So what we're doing
so
is,
right now, you're recommending 3,
yes,
and 2 of those are clear replacements, so they don't add to the fleet. And
Right.
the third adds to the fleet until the one you think is about to give up the ghost does.
exactly, yes. By the end of the year, I expect we'll be back down to the 19 vehicles that we have today.
And when you say excessively high maintenance, what kind of magnitude is that?
I have a threshold of about $15,000 that I, the
Annually?
operator, no, just for 1 repair. So
Oh,
the
one.
operator contacts me, the maintenance crew contacts me, if there's a repair over 10,000, and usually if it's 15,000 or more, it's a vehicle of 9 years or more, then we have to kind of talk about whether or not we can replace these vehicles right now, or if it's worth investing the money for the maintenance repair. In this case, these vehicles are well over 10 years old, and we don't expect much life out of them, and if we do the $15,000 repair, then it's likely we'll have another one following.
And so if you kind of took our average repair bill for the whole fleet, knowing that they're different ages, and divided it by the fleet,
260,000 a year divided by, so probably around $12,000 a year per bus.
average of newer and
Average,
older.
exactly. Obviously, the newer ones have less, and the older ones have a little bit more.
So a 15 grand repair is kind of like a whole another year's worth of.
Right.
And what do these new ones cost us?
These are 100, the total together is 423, so each bus is around $150,000 rounded.
So this is a purchase versus a lease?
Yes, so we're recommending a purchase. Since we've been kind of pushed out in the term of given the approval to have the vehicles shipped here, so they come from Indiana, I believe. So they actually just drive them out when we've signed the buyer's contract. We weren't sure if it was going to be an 18-month term, a 17-month term, and with the interest rates and the budget as we have showed the budget, we believe that just buying them outright is more financially responsible for us to do.
So the recommendation on the staff review of Emeryville was that we purchase versus lease, but that we typically lease, but it had to do with the PPID assessment coming up for
Yes.
renewal. What do we think this gives us in terms of benefit versus potential liability for purchase versus lease?
Well, we buy the vehicle outright, it'll likely benefit us more because we can just turn around and sell the vehicle back to the dealer or another organization. So with a lease, our typical leases are lease to purchases, which they really are purchases or financing, but because we have a very minimal residual payout, and we are required to continue payments for the term of the lease, and we can't just turn the vehicle back in mid-term if we decided to do so. We would be penalized heavily for it. So we would likely benefit more by purchasing the vehicles outright, given our circumstances of funding and the term for which our funding expires. We could have those paid off and then just sell them back to the dealer.
So one of the things we've talked about in past boards, and I'll just mention it, is, and this gets to your recommendation, is, you know, stepping back, I will say, I believe the PPID's going to get renewed, but we got to go through that process. We're all going to have our votes and everything. But I think that will happen, but there's always a chance it won't. And many of us have certain obligations to be part of a transit authority independent of the PPID, but the PPID scales us up pretty materially. So it isn't like if that ceased to be, all buses will leave the street. So there is some sort of nascent desire to keep running,
Yes.
you know.
Exactly.
But it would be a smaller system because it would be a much smaller
Right.
pot to pay in. So there's a little bit, the tiniest bit of investment in the thought that it won't radically downsize. And I think that probability is so low that I'm not uncomfortable voting for it, and I'm going to move it. But I wanted to be honest about that. I mean, that would be sort of scorched earth, a dark day. But
Worst case scenario.
yeah,
Exactly. And we also have a few, 3 or 4 other buses coming up for their 10-year life expectancy within the next year or two. So likely, if that were to happen, those would be the vehicles to retire, and we would keep the newer vehicles. Yeah.
How many buses are running each day? I should know. How many are sitting?
Yes, at our max, we're running 13. So we have quite a few extra for maintenance rotations.
what's our total?
We have 19.
Is that maximized, do you think?
I think we would be better off with 21 right now. We would, as
I was
soon as
thinking
we
the
have-
other way.
No, we are constantly using, we're very lucky to have MV provide us 2 shuttles. They have 2 unmarked white shuttles. You'll see them running occasionally. When we have a service issue where we've got buses that are out of service, then they provide those vehicles, and they have not been charging us for the use of those vehicles. So we've been pretty lucky. They're being used a lot more now. They do not have next best GPS trackers in them. I'm working on potentially adding those to those vehicles, given that we've been using them so regularly in the last few years.
So we're using those 2 in addition to the 19.
Right. Running them more now just because we've lost those 2. So they're providing the 19. Right now we actually have 17. So they're filling in that gap until we.
So this gets us to 20, that you figure
Gets us
we'll
to
return to
20.
19 quickly.
Exactly, yes.
And if you had your choice, we'd be at 21,
Mhm.
and maybe we can think about that if
Right,
the PPID
exactly.
continues.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm moving that.
Question, will the PPID be based on kind of what we've done thus far with regards to expenses and buses and operations?
That's a super good question.
We've spent a lot of time on this, actually. We did develop a 30-year, 15-year to 2030 budget, and in that budget, we have a lot of replacements in the first 2 years, just because we've kind of been trickling along with our budget constraints. So yes, those have all been taken into consideration, as well as potential that we will likely need to increase service by about 15%.
Well, so Great Owens supplied some forward-looking projections based roughly on what we're doing now.
Mhm. Right.
But the city has hired a quote-unquote engineer to review how the system is working and who's using it and what the costs are, and is going to make a recommendation to the city that will be shared with us on what should the funding be and how is it divvied up. And we haven't seen that yet.
When do we expect to see that?
Well, now, right? I mean, it's been,
Yeah.
we would have expected it by now. They've had, all we hear from them is it's taking longer.
Yes.
So,
Is that Karen who's?
yeah.
Yeah.
And on the behalf of the board, I've expressed to the city manager and Karen that I think it would be a mistake to present all this to us and the public, because there are going to be other, we expect that the city will have a continuing obligation to fund that they haven't had in the past, a general benefit contribution, and that they're going to look from contributions for residents, all the stuff we've been hearing about. I just recommended that they not bring that out and expect everyone to make a decision on it in 2 weeks. They should let there be enough public discussion period. So it'll be interesting to see what they recommend once they deliver it.
Right.
But we have heard that they're probably going to more finely grain the way they divide up uses. That right now it's just commercial, industrial, live, work, and residential.
Right.
And there are going to be more, and they don't know how many more, and that could be good or could be bad, because if they have a million categories, we don't know how they're going to manage that. They could barely manage.
Right, exactly. They have outstanding debt now for that.
You know, they have trouble doing assessments perfectly now.
Right.
But we'll see all that. They've sort of made an effort to not let anyone preview it. So even though we might think, since we're volunteers on the board, we get early show now. So.
And how does this weigh against anything that we bring to the table in discussion of the PPID? Do they have more authority, more weight?
We're all big voters. The votes are based on the amount of money you contribute. So we're here on the board. A number of the board members are here because you're the top contributors. There are other representatives, not here today,
Right.
that are, like the chamber has a seat that's supposed to represent business in general, and there's a small business member, and there's a residential member whose seat is empty.
Right.
But everyone's going to have a vote based on the amount they're recommended to contribute based on the new study, right? So what we've been contributing in the past have made us the biggest contributors.
Mhm.
That could change.
Got it.
I mean, don't know. We all own a lot of property, so, you know. But yeah, they could change that. But the way the vote works is sort of $1, one vote. And it's a protest vote. So they tally only the people that vote.
Right.
So you vote yes or no. If you don't vote, it's as if you don't exist, you know, so.
Right. And another point was that they're basing the assessment structures on land use, and not necessarily factoring in ridership potential. So it's just purely, if you have this type of property, you're going to pay this much money.
It's square footage, right? So this doesn't, I guess what we're getting at is still we need to approve or disapprove
Right.
the bus purchase.
Yes.
I would move to approve it, but you already moved to approve.
Yeah, so you can second.
Second.
Wonderful.
All in favor? Any opposed? I think everyone said aye.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the adopt resolution 1501 to set the date for the 2015 annual membership meeting. I was hoping to have this approved earlier as the meeting was scheduled. It has to occur per our bylaws in May, and our regularly scheduled meeting is on May 21st. That's the date that I'm targeting for the annual membership meeting. We will not be holding an election of directors. Francis Collins is continuing to fill the seat as the business member, and that does not expire until I think next year. So we'll probably just be going through kind of where we are, providing an update on the status of the renewal of the PPID, and just giving the members that are present just an overview of the Emeryville TMA, how it's organized, how it's run, and the performance efficiencies of our service.
Typically, we haven't had a large contingent
Right.
other than us.
Mhm.
So you need to be prepared to
I-
talk to people, but we don't, I would guess that would be our first chance as a board to see what the city's published. If they haven't published it by then, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But it may have been published just soon before that, but we'd have that chance. And then if, to the extent people from the public do come, you'll tell the general story and remind us of the general story.
Right.
For what it's worth, I've heard that it's going to be available on May 11th. I don't know if that's true, but they're having a study session on May 19th about the PPID, and I don't know how they can do that without the engineer's report.
Right.
So,
No, I wouldn't think so either,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I've been
At least
surprised
2 days
before.
before this, exactly.
So the study session on the 19th is what you understand?
Yes, and I had been told initially that they weren't sure if they'd have it ready by the 19th, even though the votes are going out on June 5th. And I wrote back and said, I don't see how you can do that. And then they wrote back and said, well, they would have it by the 19th. And then some more people asked about it, and then they said that they would make it available on the 11th. But I heard that a couple of days ago. Nobody knows for sure.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fast. but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the realities that we mentioned at the last meeting is the current city manager is leaving the city to go to Oakland at June 30. And she has said as one of her top priorities to work on this issue, so she's trying to get it done by June 30, but you do need some room for public understanding and debate before a vote. So, okay, so do you need us to
I need to
adopt the resolution?
Exactly.
Does anyone want to move the resolution to have that meeting on May 21?
I so moved.
And I will second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The last item on our agenda is the review of the design for the proposed bus stop signage. So I've included, there's two versions here. They're very similar. They've got kind of a color reversal thing going on, but there's this version, which is the purple Emeryville round with our routes listed on it, and buses indicating which routes are served by the different stops throughout the city, and a very prominently displayed next bus code, which is probably the most important information on our site. People use that to track their vehicle arrivals. The purpose of this, just to remind everybody, is we currently have, and I apologize, I didn't bring it, it's actually in my car, because really wants to see it. We have signage that is in like a metal case and with a plexiglass cover on it. And we're having a high volume of theft of the metal frames. And we keep having to go out there, order new ones, have them replaced. These are gonna be similar to like what the AC transit signs look like and a standard transit sign would look like. They're some kind of polyplastic material, very durable, graffiti guard. They meet the regulations in terms of like deflections and reflections as you're driving down the street. And they're standard, kind of bus stop signage. They would be removing the existing signage and replacing them with this. They also manufacture the signage themselves, and that's D&M Traffic Services. Oh, and I'm sorry, the estimated cost for this is about $12,000.
Was it, how many signs is that?
43, I believe, 43 signs.
So are you recommending one or the other of these designs, Ronnie?
Well, if I was going to make a selection, I'd probably go with the purple
Yeah,
sign. Purple breeze.
the less white the better.
Yes.
So these are all the same, just 4 different variations, right?
Oh, did you get more than one? Yes, yes. So one of the, and then also they'll be double-sided. So,
I do like the one that you did.
Yeah, okay.
The purple one.
okay. And wherever possible, they're going to be side mounted on the poles. They have special brackets they have to use. They won't be flush mounted as our current signs are. So they can be seen from both directions.
So just a question, part of what makes the Emeryville round visible is the bright yellow,
Right.
right? And these don't incorporate that, neither design incorporates that. I'm just wondering from a branding consistency, have we explored the bright yellow as the primary identifier?
You know what, I think we did that on the second, well, we didn't do the bright, we did like a softer yellow. We could have them brighten we could have them add more yellow.
I'm fine with the purple if it's for readability purposes,
Right.
it's easier to read a high contrast color,
Exactly.
but it just doesn't correlate with the bus color.
And we could potentially brighten up the yellow in the roadway of the Emery go-around logo.
The middle.
As well, the middle.
Or the-
Little broken line.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
And maybe the Emery go-round can be in yellow as well.
Okay.
If it maintains the readability.
Right, exactly.
So would one of you like to move that? Move the signs with those changes?
But we'll explore the changes, I don't think we should decide, yeah.
Okay.
I would move that with the exploration of the revisions.
You said approved.
Yes.
Second.
So just to make sure I understand, we are approving contingent upon final review of the modifications as one is described.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay.
Suggestions or requests from board members? No more emergency meetings.
Well, if they're gonna be this long, I don't mind.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bay Street.
Very efficient, exactly. We tried, we did try.
So our next meeting's been confirmed, May 21.
Yes.
And will that be
That will be
9 a.m.?
At 9 a.m. at Bay Street. We'll have the board meeting and immediately follow the annual membership meeting.
Just to avoid any repeat of last time, the meeting in Bay Street, the location is closer to the theater
Yes.
entrance.
It's on the ground level underneath the theater?
But by the escalators and where you come in from the parking garage?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, just if you come down those escalators, like the theater's behind you, you just make that immediate right and the door is just right there on the right-hand side.
It says, what does it say, Bay Street Community Room or
Yes.
something like that?
Yeah,
Yes.
conference rooms, yeah.
Right near the, right close to the restrooms?
Right, exactly. There's the management office, the restrooms, and then the conference room.
And just from a question from a tax filing standpoint, part of your urgency was to get the taxes filed.
Yes.
We're still in a good non-penalty zone.
Exactly, May 15th is our deadline, so we'll be finalizing the tax documents. Our accountant will do that, and we will be likely FedExing them to you for signature, and we'll send them out. So we'll coordinate with that liaison. That,
Are there any margaritas available
I
at Bay
wish I
Street
knew.
today?
I was gonna offer that as a date for what the show. Margaritas.
All right, board members, thank you for coming. We'll see you on
Thank
the
you all.
21st.